Alright, so I made a pretty bad game here, and I made a pretty bad AI to play it for me. So before we get started, I should note that I work at Google, but nothing here should be considered an endorsement. It's a personal project. Nothing's an endorsement by Google for anything. So the point of this game, the red square wants to get to the green win area. When it does that, it wins, and it tries to do that in the least number of moves possible. It does this by generating, it starts by generating 100 starting moves, and after that, it's going to randomly mutate its moves. Each generation is going to make 20 children, and then it's going to keep the best child from each generation. So it gets started. It starts with 100 different vectors. 20. Each child starts with 100 vectors, and it's picked the best one. So now they're all starting going more or less in the same direction. I have a gray square here, which is theoretically the best one of each generation, although it's not without its problems. The squares are supposed to bounce off the walls. You'll see a couple that sort of ride the walls, and that's my interactions. The blue squares will go and kill anything it hits. So up top, we can see they're on generation now 18, and they are about 1,200 pixels Pythagorean theorem distance away. The winner has about 160 moves that it's taken. By moves, what's happening is every turn, it's either adding plus or minus 1 to its x velocity and plus or minus 1 to its y velocity. It can get a maximum velocity of 4 in x and y direction. And so every turn it's increasing or decreasing that velocity, and because the winner gets picked, the one it's picking is ones that tend to put the velocity up and right. In terms of mutation, what's happening is that every turn it can add moves, it can subtract moves, or it can change its previous moves. And every turn I'm also forcing it to add one move. Because more moves are generally helpful to it, if the moves are up and right, we can see that every mutation tends to increase moves. Here it just went down from 200, it went up to 202. We'll see it kind of tend to increase. Since it has a max velocity of 4 and it starts about 1,600 moves away, it kind of has to get there. It's not going to beat more than about 400 moves. So here you can see things that basically every generation has some that if they don't get out of the initial corral, then even though the rest of it wants to go up and right, that isn't helpful for it. So those ones, don't go anywhere. We also see some that sort of ride these barriers, and that's just because my interaction routine is taking place at the corners, and so if they get right up through the middle, it doesn't work very well. But, we can see this is getting better as the generations progress. We're 60 generations in, and we have gotten down from about 1,600 distance to about 809 distance, and most generations, it's dropping by, 10 or so. Here we're down to, 550 distance. We're coming up on 85 moves. It keeps getting a little better each time because there's 20 children, so, randomly mutating, some of them are going to be better. Some of them are way worse, but some of them are going to be better. I could have probably made this go faster if there's a lot of hyperparameters to tune. They could mutate more. They could have more children. I found out what happens if you mutate them too high. It isn't necessarily good because they start going in weird directions. So probably the easiest way to have made this go faster is to, instead of 20 children, if one had, 100 children, then it would probably get there faster. All right, we got one that almost made it in. I expect we'll start to see something. Yep. Okay, so we got a min distance of 0. So it isn't every time that all the children start hitting it, but that one still had another child hit it. So theoretically, we should start to see more and more children hit it, and then we should start to see the number of moves decrease. But that hasn't been too robust. But I wouldn't be surprised if we can get fewer than 490, a little fewer. But theoretically, these should keep getting better. 496. We're 150 generations in. We're pretty much always getting to the green square now. That time they didn't, but we'll start to see more of them get to the square again, and they're taking about 500 moves to do it. There, they're back at the square. It's a little worse than they were before, but there's a few bugs. But anyway, this randomly generating their accelerations and then just killing off anyone who isn't doing a good job and keeping the best ones eventually gets us to the winning square. Now, of course, a human would have done it just by scooting along the bottom here probably and riding up this right rail, but it's not the world's best AI. But thanks for watching.